Picking up where I left off, and if you haven't seen part 1 of this little series yet, I'll link it at the end of this video. Part 1 was focused on underrated cities and towns in Europe, even though it was focused on one country, whereas this time I'll jump around a little bit. I prefaced that video with my experiences traveling all around the US and abroad in a punk band in my 20s and 30s. More recently getting hired to film and take photos in Europe for a culinary travel company. And my hiking trips and my travel experience in general, all over Europe, the US, Mexico, Canada, and I guess the Caribbean? So let's dive into part 2. Our first stop. Hear me out why I think this is underrated, and I admit it's questionable for me to call an objectively picturesque destination in the Alps, whose economy is built around tourism, underrated. But I'm calling it that. What's nice is that, with all that said, the tourism there, and a population of just under 4,000 permanent residents, doesn't feel overwhelmingly touristy. I was surprised to see it actually did not show up on most lists for best places to visit in Switzerland. I mean, I guess those lists are subjective too, right? Usually on those lists you have your Zermatt, Montreux, Bern, Lucerne, Interlaken, etc. But for me, before going to Grindelwald, I Googled a bunch of photos of it, and I was actually kind of annoyed, thinking, why does everyone have to Photoshop everything? To my amazement, they were not Photoshopped. It's really that beautiful, that grand, that scenic, and that surreal. I was there at the end of September, so we had days in the mid-60s, and yet right next to you, or literally looming over your head, snow and glacial-capped mountains. You could walk, or take a gondola up to First, or Grindelwald First. I'm still unclear on how the name works. But once you get to the top, hoof it over to Lake Bacalpsee, and you've got a panorama of the Mittelhorn, not the Matterhorn, Schreckhorn, and the Eiger. It really does have that edge-of-the-world fairy tale feeling to it. I hope I have the names of these peaks right. Lord knows my pronunciations are far from correct. And not that I'm big on shopping, but the town in Grindelwald actually had some cool shops, hiking and apparel stores, great bakeries and cafes, you name it. So if you're taking photos of a street, a house, a church, or a simple bed of flowers, the backdrop of the mountains make it a photographer's dream scenario. Just outside of town, you could also take one of the bigger gondolas up to the Eiger. One of the most well-known peaks in Switzerland and the Bernese Alps, glaciers literally greet you when you exit the gondola. And you'll need winter hiking clothes for the peak, but depending on the time of year, shorts and a t-shirt as you descend back into the valley. My only regret with the trips I've done to Switzerland, and I hope to rectify this, is to get to the Sphinx Observatory in the Jungfrau Joch, or Jungfrau region. Again, don't judge me too harshly on these pronunciations. Our next destination, and luckily it's actually close by, in Switzerland is Mürren. Mürren? Here again, you can get a gondola from the valley floor that takes you to a train where you get off and hike up and down the Bernese highlands. If I have this right, towards the end of the hike is where we walk down into Mürren. The view of the Three Sisters Peaks, and there are many three-peaked mountain ranges in the world nicknamed Three Sisters, of Eiger, Mönch, and Jungfrau is sensational. If you're a Lord of the Rings fan, it's honestly no wonder that Tolkien's inspiration for the Misty Mountains came from this mountain range. And if I remember correctly, his inspiration for Rivendell actually came from Lauterbrunnen. The whole region is a real-life fairy tale. But again, from a photography perspective, I don't think of myself as a pure landscape photographer, but you don't even need a wide angle to capture these landscapes in interesting compositions and perspectives. Any lens, any angle, any vantage point. Grindelwald and Mürren are incredible, as are Lauterbrunnen and Interlaken as well. I could keep going on about Switzerland. Hell, Zurich is such an awesome city to visit too. I'm lucky to have been there several times now, but moving on. Our next destination is in Scotland, in the Isle of Skye. Specifically, if you've been to the Isle of Skye, chances are you've driven by, parked and taken photos at, or maybe even hiked the Kerrang. And honestly, this is another weird one to call underrated. I'm actually putting it there just in comparison to the more known tourist and hiking spot of Old Man's Store, or just the store. I love that hike and views as well. I mean, if you've ever seen Prometheus, that scene where they find the map in the cave was filmed at the store, but I digress. The reason I chose the Kerrang as underrated in comparison is because Store has a stone footpath, devastating on the quads and calves to walk up for sure, whereas the Kerrang's path is almost indiscernible from the many sheep paths that crisscross the terrain. It just feels more raw, more rugged. And this would be a good spot to clarify that the hikes I'm going on aren't with a pack full of food and water and a tent. I don't have a compass. It's all trails guided, several hours long, usually out and backs. Strenuous, sure, but this is more of an enthusiast or low to mid-level hiker's perspective. Take it for what it's worth. This is also a good point to reiterate that you, don't need to be a pure landscape photographer to find the beauty in the Kerrang, photographically speaking. Most lenses, most angles, most compositions, a telephoto, 24-70, wide angle, 50mm prime, they all work. Visual stimuli surround you. It really almost feels prehistoric. When we hiked there, I kept thinking about that line from Braveheart, "It's run, hide the Highland way." Like, yeah, that makes sense. No way you're gonna march the English army into the Scottish Highlands to follow them. But that's why the Kerrang made this list. It was literally one of my favorite hikes ever, despite maybe getting lost for a bit following a sheep path instead of the actual trail. And it was definitely one of my favorite spots to take photos and grab some footage at. The next hidden gem, or really just a stop to make, is the town of... We did more than stop there. We actually stayed there for 3 nights, rented out an awesome little pod on a hill overlooking the harbor and the bay. But what makes Uig so special is where it sits in the Isle of Skye, both photographically and geographically. Photographically, I mean, come on. Panoramic view of the bay, the surrounding cliffs, farms that seemingly drop right off into the ocean, westward facing for sunsets, and as a bonus, some guy would go out to his yard every night around 6-ish to play the bagpipes. But geographically, you have the Fairy Glen 5 minutes away, Trotternish Ridge Nature Preserve a few minutes past that, the Kerrang about 15 miles away, and Corran Beach with the dinosaur footprints a few minutes past that, which also has this awesome view of Staffin Island. Uig is just a great launch point for several days worth of sights and hikes. And driving from A to B, in the Isle of Skye in general, but especially in this northernmost region, is in and of itself a photography gift. There's no shortage of photogenic and incredible compositions, light, landscapes, you name it. As I wrap the Scotland excursion up, I'll just do a rapid fire round. And this is where I'll definitely refrain from using terms like hidden gem and underrated. First up, the Hidden Valley in Glencoe gets top marks. You'll see a lot of tour buses there stopping at the many lots and especially the viewpoint of the Three Sisters. And there you go, 2 destinations in 2 different European countries with the nickname of mountain peaks being Three Sisters. But stopping at viewpoints isn't the same as getting out to hike the valley up into the mountains. The erratic weather we encountered that day on our hike, actually on a lot of days, is what I think makes Scotland so special and unique. It obviously has rapidly changing and unpredictable weather systems, but with the right gear, both hiking, apparel, and camera gear, in my opinion, it only adds to the mystique. In terms of well-known spots that are still worth it to visit are the Urquhart Castle in Loch Ness, the National Museum of Scotland, Edinburgh Castle, Edinburgh in general. I mean, there's so many more, but from my admittedly biased perspective, the places a little more off the grid, less touristy, less busy, those make for the best trips, photos, and experiences. Hope you enjoyed this 2-part series if you're a photographer, videographer, filmmaker, hiker, or even just a traveling enthusiast. I'm thinking about doing another one of these videos just focused on the US, or maybe even like North America. I'll think about it. Definitely more to come because I do love traveling. Take care.